right, everybody, we are back with another Ramp Careers Daily Update. I'm joined with both co-founders today, Mitch and Manoj. Fellas, it's Monday. How we doing?
I'm doing well, Danny. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. All right, so today we want to talk about something that may just apply for the post-COVID world, but we wanted to give you all a playbook on how to deal with it. It's conferences. Something some of us have experienced. There's certainly a playbook for how to do them and some pitfalls that you can avoid. So we want to share our learnings with you and have you dominate your next conference. So Manoj, I know you had some things you wanted to talk about regarding the pre-conference prep. So share your knowledge with us on how to dominate the pre-conference prep.
Yeah, before we jump in, do you guys miss conferences? Mitch, you and I have attended our fair share of conferences, sometimes multiple back-to-back at that. I know we've stayed in Vegas. I did a 3-week stint in Vegas attending 2 conferences back-to-back. Do you guys miss them?
I miss conferences, traveling with companies who had money to spend at conferences. I don't miss the startup conferences where you're like sleeping 3 to a bed and eating ramen.
Hey man, I have such fond memories. I think one of my fondest memories was the last conference that you and I had attended at YAPE. I'm pretty sure we booked a suite where we had Anthony, who's the founder, and myself in the bedroom because there were 2 queen size beds. And then I think there's a pull-out couch in the common area where you were sleeping. And then there was all the conference materials that we had, like the banners and everything else in the living room. And we still had demos and things that we had to do. That was quite stressful, but also fun. I don't know. I tend to enjoy these group outings more so than I guess you did.
You love getting in front of people, absolutely.
I miss the being in groups of more than 10 a lot. So if it had to be a conference, sure, I would love to go to a conference right now. But I don't necessarily miss the sheer exhaustion. But looking back on it, those are fond memories that you'll always have about any job you're at. Is the conferences always stand out because you do make a ton of memories, success or failure at the conference. It's always somewhat fun.
Yeah, totally. Now, jumping into your question about pre-conference, I'll tell you the story of the very first conference that I attended and completely botched it. It was such a waste of money because in hindsight, I just hadn't done enough prep going in. I think people have this misconception that all you have to do is sign up for tickets at the conference as an attendee. If you have access to a little bit of a budget, maybe you'll get a small booth, and all you have to do is show up and everybody will just come to you in droves and sign up for meetings, which is like simply far from the truth. The reality is that even if you have a budget and even if you have the biggest booth that's out there, the amount of foot traffic that you have is just concentrated during 2 or 3 times during the day. The only times people walk through the conference floor is during breaks. A lot of times they're just doing programming. So you have like 2 or 3 bursts during the day where you have a ton of people walk through. And then after that, you're just out there, standing and staring into eternity. And coming back, I realized that there's so much work that needs to be done before you go to a conference in order to position, I guess, you as an SDR or an AE for conference success. So here are some things that, you could, with a little bit of work, give you the best possible and fighting chance at success. The first thing is, if you already have a list of prospects that you're targeting, or if you already have a list of prospects that you're having conversations with, you should just make sure that you know whether they're attending the conference. Get a pulse. I think it's difficult to get a list of attendees. Most conferences don't sell that type of information for good reason. But if these are prospects you're already engaging with, just ask if they're going to be at the conference, or tell them that you're going to be at the conference and get a pulse, right? So if you know that they're going to be at the conference, try to book a coffee chat with them, or try to book, some kind of a happy hour for a group of prospects. Try to book like lunch or dinner outside of the conference food because people get bored. Do a little bit of work to see if you can set up some in-person meeting, even if it's for 10 minutes to say hi, hello, with your existing prospects. And I think that's something that you should certainly be doing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you have existing customers that are fans of your product or service and are champions, I just explore ways of engaging them. One of the things that, we had learned from companies that do conferences really well is that they'll typically pay for the tickets for 1 or 2 of their customers, and they'll say, hey, listen, I'll cover your entire conference costs, but in return, I need you to come spend some time with us at the booth and spend time as a customer, right? So you're the CRO and you sell sales automation software. Maybe you invite one of your CRO customers to come spend 2-3 hours at the booth wearing a t-shirt that says, proud, your company name customer, and talking with other CROs lends so much more credibility than you trying to sell, right? So find ways that you can engage your customer base, even if they can't commit to that. If you know that your customers are attending, just ask, be like, hey, listen, can I get 1 or 2 introductions from you, friends of yours that you've met at the conference the year past? Can you spread the good word? Can you endorse us? I think that's something that you should definitely do again ahead of time, right? Because you're giving yourself more opportunities to get that meeting or set up that meeting. And then the last thing is, if you have a marketing team, work with them. Marketing teams typically do quite a chunk of pre-marketing activities. And so connect with them, get to see what they're doing in terms of pre-marketing efforts, and see what you can do as an SDR to line up your efforts and align it against theirs, right? So to recap, as an SDR, there's only a certain number of things you can do, but here are 3 things you can do. One is your pipeline, your list of prospects. Try to get meetings with them in person ahead of time. Second, anyone that you have a good relationship with, any customer, try to either get introductions from them that you can meet at the conference, or try to have them come spend some time with you at the booth, because that will yield a lot more results than you trying to hustle and scoring a meeting at the conference. And then finally, if you have the luxury of having a marketing team that's doing a lot of pre-marketing efforts, try to get in front of them to see what it is that they're doing and how that can help you get some meetings either before the conference or during the conference. On to you, Mitch. Once assuming you've done everything, I guess, what do you do when you actually show up at the conference?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great tips. Pre-conference prep is so important to put yourself in the best light and best position when you get to the actual conference. So let's assume that you are one of the select chosen SDRs that gets to go to the conference. I think it's important to highlight there, right? That typically most companies will pick their top performing SDRs. It is a privilege. It's not a right. You need to take it seriously if you are chosen to go and attend a conference. Even if that means you're just going to be working the booth, which is most likely that means you're going to be working the booth all day, every day. Take it seriously, because it's some of the absolute best memories you're going to make, like we talked about earlier, but also some of the best experience you're going to get in the real world of business. I had the privilege, and sort of Manoj, of working with, who I'll say was kind of like my godfather of conference training. And back in the day, Pat Fall, he came from Avalara. They were a conference machine. And he taught me so many good points. A couple of them. One is you're there to work. So that means we had a rule back in the day, which means you're not on your phone. You're not standing around gossiping with your coworkers. You are there to pitch. You're there to get prospects. And you're there to set up meetings. So what that means is when you're at the booth, you're standing on your feet the whole time, you're making eye contact with people walking by, reaching out to people walking by, you're pulling them into the booth. You'll be amazed at the amount of other sales folks there that are sitting on their chairs, heads down, looking at their phone, gossiping with their other coworkers. And that's your competition, right? You are competing against the people to your left, the people to the right, the booth across from you. Every booth at that conference is trying to pull somebody in to have a conversation. It's your goal to get that prospect to have a conversation with you. So that's my number one tip, is be at the conference, be there mentally, be there in the now, be there ready to work. That's number one. Number two is hone your pitch. And I'll say, pre-conference, have your 30-second pitch down. During the conference, actively be honing it as well, because if you've never been to a conference before, it's one of the best places to get active feedback on, is this pitch resonating with the prospect that I'm trying to grab and pull in to spend 30 seconds with me. And that's all you'll typically have, right? It's really hard to get someone live in front of you. But when you have, 100, 200 people walking by every 30 minutes, you got a chance to practice that pitch over and over and over again. You can see the physical reaction of that pitch. Is this person's eyes glazing over? Are they looking distracted? Are they even hearing what I'm saying? And that's where you can hone in on that 10, 15-second opener to grab their attention, then close them on a meeting. And it's really exhilarating, I think, to be in that kind of moment of pitching and see the live back and forth happening between you and the prospect. So
how distracting is it when you're pitching someone and they're clearly just standing in front of you, though, and looking anywhere else, like your pitch is just not working when you get that feedback.
It's so demoralizing. You're like, oh my God, this is going nowhere. They just say thanks Danny for the Chotsky, and they walk off. But you get it's such a thrill, it's such a rush when they actually engage with you. So hone your pitch beforehand and then actively be working on honing it there. The other big thing is these pitches you got to keep them short and sweet, right? Your goal there is not to sell them on your product. Your goal there is to book a meeting for the next week when they're back in the office. So pitch them if they are interested qualify them, ask them 2, max, maybe 3 questions to qualify them, then move on to the next prospect. Hey Manoj, great chatting with you. Sounds like we have a great fit for what you're looking to do. Would love to grab your email now, and I'll shoot you a note for times next week. Or even better yet, pull open your phone, book the meeting right there on your calendar, send them an invite, shake their hand, and move on to the next prospect behind them. Your goal should be hitting, I think Manoj and I, whenever we do conferences together, we'd have, a race basically. Who can get 50 meetings booked as fast as possible? And now look, some unqualified means will slip through there, but that's okay, because I think at conferences, it's a volume game, really. You're there to hustle, you're there to book as many meetings as possible. You can disqualify later on if you need to when you get back in the office. Talk to as many people as possible. And then the last thing I'd say is, like, you're always working during the whole event. So it's not just on the booth floor, it's at lunch. You're sitting next to people. What we would do is we would go get a tray, we'd eat a little bit, we'd sit down to the person on, and talk to the person on the left, talk to the person on the right. We'd get back up, go get another tray, go move tables. You're just trying to meet as many people as possible. Even at the after parties, another great place. People let their guard down. You're having a drink or two. One caveat there is, be a professional. You're there to work still. You're a sales professional. You can have fun and make connections with people, do it professionally. But another great place to book meetings and meet prospects. I think we've closed at least one customer from just an after party before, maybe more that I can't remember, but you're always working. The whole weekend you're working, and you should be on it. If you do those, 3 or 4 things, you'll have a blast, you'll book a lot of meetings, and you'll come out of there a better SDR for when you get back in the office.
I think you did a good job of what you should do at the conference, and Manoj obviously covered some great insights about pre-conference, which is arguably the most important part to you. What I think we should talk about next is maybe what we should do post-conference. So post-conference, it's all about organization and it's all about outreach. So if you can remember those 2 things for your post-conference work, you'll be in good shape. So on the organization front, you've met hundreds, potentially more contacts at this conference. What you need to do is run through all of the names, every single person. If you haven't done this already, add them on LinkedIn. Number 1 thing. Number 2 thing, maybe 1B to LinkedIn 1A, is get them into your CRM right away. Make sure every contact you meet is in your CRM. Make sure all of the notes you have for every single contact are in your CRM, so you can prep not only your AE, but prep your organization on what happened at the conference, what they cared about, what they didn't care about. Did you have a meaningful conversation, etc. Now, this next part on outreach potentially should be should be already done by the time you get done with the conference, but you should have your sequences lined up to talk to your prospects. So however many touch points you're going to send in that first couple of weeks after the conference should already be ready to go. Talk about something you spoke about at the conference, stay relevant, make sure that your emails are going out over the course of the next 2 weeks. I've always found that if I can't get a prospect locked in that first 2 weeks after the conference, they're pretty much gone. A prospect is as gone as any cold lead off a list. So have that be your ticking time bomb. If you don't reach them in that 2-week period, it may be over for now. So it's organization at the end of a conference, and it's outreach. Make sure your contact numbers are in your CRM, make sure your LinkedIn's all lined up, and make sure that you have your sequences ready to rock, sharing something that you spoke about at the conference all lined up for your prospects. Cool. Well, this has been a fruitful discussion. Hopefully we can unleash this and you can use this sooner rather than later, given Corona. Either way, it will provide you with a good playbook for how to attack and dominate the conferences that you'll attend in the future. For Manoj and Mitch, this is Danny signing off with another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye.